it should be named, right? The lack of passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, like the voting rights have not been enshrined. We only have seen movement from the Senate on, this climate change bill. But then the same thing with, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which again does not go nearly as far as some of the folks that I've had on this show and that we all know in terms of, it's like limiting no-knock warrants and things like this. Those two issues being like virtually untouched by the Senate. How does that resonate? Does that make your work harder?
Not only does it make my work harder, but hell, at the end of the day, that's the kind of stuff that make me like, well, do I want to vote? So I understand people's frustration, right? Like, let's get real. When I've been out before and the folks were like, I don't even want to vote. I was like, well, I feel y'all ain't excited either, right? But this is why I vote. What I'm excited about is I want our communities to have power, and there is an opening. Right. There is an opening. We have to see that we're in the middle of a transition. Part of the voter suppression, y'all, is not because we're losing. It's because we're winning. Right. I am excited that there is a new coalition made up of white people, Black folks, AAPI folks, indigenous people, young folks, older folks. We saw that in George Floyd uprising, the largest uprising ever in this nation, that when you look at the photos and the pictures, it was multi-generational, it was multicultural. Something is happening. And so this is a moment that we're actually connecting arms and starting to be a power. Now, there's still work we got to do. Right. I'm not in a space that I'm thinking that it's Disneyland. Right. But what I do believe is that we all see what is happening. Right. And there is an opportunity for us to build the kind of multiracial coalition that is going to make America be true to what it's supposed to be true to, because we've never had an America that all had access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But we got to speak to that and say that. But in this moment, I believe that that's what we can do. And I don't think it's going to be one election. I'm talking about this as long-term work. And so when we're talking to people and organizing folks, we're honest with them and authentic with them to say that we don't think that voting is going to be the end all and the be all. But what we do believe is that when a community is at war and you're fighting for your life, you got to use every tool available to you. If that means all you got to have is a hammer, then I'm going to knock the hell out of you with this hammer. Right. But you've got to use this power of voting to be able to stop the pain happening in our community and hold folks accountable.
I love how it's usually everything looks like a nail, but you're like, no, you're just going to hit people with the hammer.
They're getting the
hammer. I mean, and there are, it's very difficult. I mean, it's how, in the immediate aftermath of the Roe v. Wade, the Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade, there was this sense of like, yeah, what have you done for me lately? And how dare you send out these fundraising messages? And how dare you be like, well, we have to focus on November, because even if we hand you the Senate again, what's the plan? Like, please be more specific. And I still feel that way on both the abortion rights issue, as well as the voting rights issue, as well as the, criminal justice issue. Like, these are things that absolutely voting is critical. And man, it is so sad that we have to, as you're trying to get out the vote, explain that even with the majority, there's something called the fucking filibuster, and we can't get anything passed, but that all roads really do effectively lead through there. But you're also like, okay, but what's the, like, honestly, I need like a literal IOU written to me on a piece of paper that tells me, what you're going to do, and so.
I agree, but Francesca, I have a slightly shifted view over the years that I want to share, right?
Yeah.
And as part of it is, I've been part of processes that have had people to sign contracts and they lied. They did stuff. I've been a part of processes that I don't think, this is what I say to people. This is what my belief is. I don't think that the shift is about the politicians. I think the shift is about us. Part of what we have done is that we have abdicated our power, and we we put politicians in office, and we expect them to come up with the ideas. We expect them to do right. We expect them, I'm going to vote for you and I'll see you in 4 years and you just go handle my business.
Right.
Where they do that at? I'm just being honest. Where does that happen? And so I'm raising that because I think there has to be a fundamental paradigm shift in we, the people, that we have to decide that we really want this thing called power. That we can't just say, well, I want this policy win, that we want power, and that we are so powerful, that we are so consistent, that we show up at, because the bottom line is, you let start people who are operating against our interests start being taken out, we start taking them out in droves. Let me tell you where the country gonna go, right? You're gonna start seeing the reason why the Republicans are that far extreme as they are right now is because there were folks that came in, they were organized. We don't want to go back. I can go back to the Tea Party. That there were grassroots work that was done, regardless of what our position is on it, that there was an intentionality around grassroots organizing to build up the grassroots infrastructure. You had a whole thing over here called the Heritage Foundation that was making sure that it was shot the messages, it was crafting the narrative and the messages. And then what you had is you had egotistical white men who like literally became the face of that and created and led into this history of structural racism in this country that none of us are free of, and exploited that. That's what happened. And I'm saying that our approach, not the same approach, because we have to have some integrity, right? And we have to be inclusive. It is easier for you to have.
We also don't have as much dark money. I mean, like, the reason everyone hates Soros because he's literally the only semi-good billionaire. He's like, he's the only billionaire that's like given to civil rights causes and like given to like the Palestinians. Like he's an amazing. He's actually
so he's the one that controls everything.
So he's obviously the one that controls everything. But again, you're totally money is not necessarily on our side. But you're right that like you're right. It is. We cannot afford to, arms crossed, just stay on the sidelines.
That's right.
Either during an election and certainly after elections in the meantime. And I'm thinking of, as critical as I am of the climate change bill, the people that I do know who have been working very specifically on blueprints around the Green New Deal, around, real concrete ways that this federally we can actually make progress. They're calling it a victory. You know what I mean? They're not saying it's a nothing burger. They're saying, no, it's a start. It's good.
Right.
And in fact, you see some of these other policies that are coming down the pike after this bill. And it seems like Biden may be limiting emissions, and not weaseling, but working other ways into to get some of those policy changes, not necessarily in that big package, but through other means. So
That's right.
Again, I think it's really true to take cues from organizers like yourself when it comes to all this.
Shift our paradigm, Francesca. I want people to shift our paradigm. We have actually seen ourselves in this democracy only as participants. We have not seen ourselves in this way that we should be crafting not just a policy of what you're going to do in this current system. We have to be honest and say this economic system is not working for us. And not that we don't want you to have a Band-Aid. We want you to we deserve a whole nother approach to the economy, right? And how the economy is how this country's resources are invested upon. But if that is to happen, it can't be a one-off. It has to be people demanding that we radically reimagine what is going to happen in this country, and that we demand that is the case, and we stay on it. There's no reason why Puerto Rico is not a state right now. I mean, not Puerto Rico, I'm sorry. The District of Columbia is not a state right now. It is absolutely no reason for DC not to be a state. And so, but part of it is, like I said, we have been trained to not participate in democracy. We have been trained to only show up in elections and go back to your corners, and then we're going to tell y'all what we do or don't do.
Yeah, and then hope our leaders do the right thing.
I hope they do the right thing.
Like you said, the Heritage Foundation just hands them a list and is like, appoint these people. And they do it.
And Alec.
And here's and then just like stacks of money and bills underneath it. I want to give James any questions or thoughts, and then give Latasha the final word here.
No, give my time to her. She's smarter than me.
Latasha,
come on, James. I can't believe what James said. I can have your space. I don't know. That right there is an honor. That James gave me talking space. What?
Yeah. Come on. Reclaiming time. Latasha, anything we didn't touch on that you want to leave with folks before we got just a couple months to go here?
I think that there are a couple of things that a quick thing that I want to leave with people. I want us to really, and I say this all the time, but I want us to radically reimagine this nation. I usually ask people to close your eyes, and I ask them to imagine an America without racism. And just to sit there in it. What would that look like? Like, what would the institutions look like? Imagine, just close your eyes. Imagine an America, without sexism and homophobia and ableism. Just baseline as a value. Yeah. What would that America look like? And so I think we need to spend some time in that question, because that's what I'm fighting for.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.